Wouldn't it be great if we could all have joyful relationships? Hi, I'm Kim Marie. Welcome to the channel. I've been doing a video series that is related to the homepage of my website, kimmariecoaching.com, where I pose the question, what would your middle way look like? And I list a handful of things that it might look like. And many women tell me they long for joyful relationships. And you know what? The joyful relationships aren't just the relationships maybe with their partners or with their children or with their parents or their friends or their siblings. It's also the relationship with themselves. Okay? How many times have we caught ourselves talking to ourselves in a way that we would never talk to someone else? And how on earth can we possibly have a joyful relationship with ourselves if we're doing that? And if we don't have a good relationship with ourselves, how can we have a joyful and quality relationship with someone else? Right? There is so much that we do that ultimately kind of projects what's going on in here out there onto someone else. So maybe we're struggling in our relationship with our partner, but really it's coming from our own insecurities and our own lack of self-love, our own lack of self-care, our own lack of energy and feeling drained. Like I said in the last video that I talked about, there's so many different factors that play into the idea of joyful relationships, okay? Now, again, how does that become a middle way, right? What happens is we often either avoid relationships altogether, or maybe on the other extreme, we try to form all of these relationships that we think we should have, that we think we have to have, that we're obliged to have because, they're the people I work with, or they're the people in my family, or this or that. What I want to invite you to do is consider that you get to decide the relationships that you cultivate. We can be kind and we can be loving toward everyone, but we do not need to be lenient. We do not need to take care of everyone, right? We don't have to try to fix things or be burdened by all the things that are not ours to do. I was listening to a podcast, I think it was an Oprah podcast recently, where the person that she was interviewing was talking about, I think it was Byron Katie actually, was talking about there's our business, there's others' business, and there's God's business, okay? So there's this concept of joyful relationships often come when we can mind our own business, right? And we don't get ourselves caught up in trying to mind other people's business. And we don't get ourselves caught up in trying to control things we can't control that are God's business, right? But we just focus on what we need to do and the kinds of relationships we want to cultivate and what we want to do to cultivate them and how we want to cultivate them. And then we look at how does that look in collaboration with others that we want to be in relationship with. Can we set the boundaries? Can we be clear? We all are going to have different types of relationships, right? We might have relationships with our marital partner or household partner, but we might also have a different kind of relationship with a business partner. And then we have a different kind of relationship with our children versus our closest friends. And maybe then a different kind with our parents and our siblings. And it doesn't mean we don't want to be ourselves in all of those relationships. But what it does mean is we might need to set different types of boundaries, different types of intentions around how we're going to show up in those relationships and how we want them to be. And we might even set different parameters, right? There might be the parameter, like I always feel like I was kind of the black sheep of my family. I do things very differently than most of them do. And for me, from a very young age, I felt the need to get out, to move out on my own, to venture away from where I grew up. And that was the parameter I needed to set to have a joyful relationship with my family. I love my family, and I don't choose to hang out with them all the time. And maybe many of you can relate, right? And the same can be true. Like I run a business and I can't have the same kinds of friendships that maybe You know, if I back when I was a stay-at-home mom and still married, I had other friends that were stay-at-home moms, and we could get together with our children and spend that time during the day. I can't do that anymore. I can't have that kind of freedom anymore if I'm going to build a business and do that for myself. So what does that look like? And our friends and our different relationships are going to change over time. And joyful relationships, the meaning of those will change over time as well. What my sons as teenage boys would say are joyful relationships are very different than what I would say are joyful relationships, right? In terms of what they would choose to do and how, how often they might see each other, the kinds of activities. And so you want to ask yourself, what is a joyful relationship for you? Are you aligning with all of these relationships on the one side that are helping you to feel like you're in good relationship, that you're feeling important, or you're feeling maybe that false sense of power that I've talked about in the past? Or are you avoiding relationships altogether? Like, it's just too hard to find anybody that understands me, that's like me, and maybe kind of going into that false sense of powerlessness where you feel alone and separate from life. Okay, where's your middle ground? What is a joyful middle ground for you? What does that look like? Share it in the comments. Let's learn from one another what joyful relationships look like in your life, and what have you found helps to create the most joyful relationships in your life. Leave the information in the comments below. I'd love to hear about your joyful relationships, and let's help each other create the joyful relationships that we all want in our life.